will pan out over the next few laps. It's a little bit sad for Great Britain. They've done so well, I couldn't believe it. They've done so well at the start of that portage, and then it all went wrong in a moment. There's confirmation, there's the front three. Salty Boros, Spaniards flanking them. Salty and Boros now, they have got a job to do here. Those Spaniards will have so much experience between them, they can work these Hungarians over, assuming they're fit and strong enough to do it after yesterday's efforts. Salty and Boros certainly still piling on. They're certainly, that still means they have some concern that they'll be caught by the boats behind them. The Spanish, I really don't think, care whether someone catches them or not at this stage. The downside of not letting Daniels and Pendle catch is that, of course, there's no diamond wash anymore. There's no V-wash. There's no definite rest position in that group. You can see Fernandez and Buzan, they've dropped back onto the tail of the Hungarians. Hungarians feel like they've done their bit and they're passing it over. The Spanish, really not quite as motivated, are they? Merchan, Alonso felt it was their duty. You could see it was a duty thing. They didn't do that willingly, and they're just going to take the sting out of the speed. Buzan and Fernandez have no objection to that. They're going to take the opportunity to grab a drink, and you can see that gap. That is, whoa, hopefully the camera missed Daniels and Pendle in the speed of the pan there. This is the French, the Belgians and the Italians. Somewhere in that speed pan we had from the cameraman was Pendles and Daniels, I hope. Oh no, there they are. They've dropped back to that group. There's the nose of their boat there. So they made a decision. They didn't want to run on their own, and they'd rather have the company and the comfort of a wash hanging group. You could argue either way. I know that if Stefan were here, he would argue that was a bad move. Very much of the opinion that if you're on your own, you press on. I think I would side with Pendle and Daniels. They weren't going to come any higher than fourth anyway, and now at least they've got a bit of a ride round. If you go around on your own and you blow out completely, then everyone, but everyone, will come past you, and at that stage there's nothing you can do about it. So good decision, I think, by Pendle and Daniels. Maybe forced on them, maybe not a decision they wanted to make, but it's a decision they have made, and now their race starts again, just with different company. I imagine that group of three is fairly happy to see them. It means they get a V-wash in their group. Finally they can have a sensible, serious rest every turn, if you like, every time someone else takes the lead. So they will be grateful. And of course each one of those in that group feels that now they have an opportunity for fourth place, which up until that point, of course, they didn't. But we've seen things change in these races. Seen it before, and we'll see it again, I'm sure. Just relax for a bit until they come down to this turn. I'm going to have a little sip of water. Champagne's run out, you In the meantime, it's water for me. So I'm missing Stefan's insight into how some of these guys might be thinking. Working with him over this weekend has been a real eye-opener for me. When I race, I only saw the race in one way, and it seems he saw races in a completely different way to how I saw them. Equally successful in many ways, and it's opened my eyes to the fact that actually, although I still believe in my way, it may not be the only way, which up until this point I believed that it was. So you can always learn. Doesn't matter how old you are, how experienced you are, you can always learn from someone else. If I did have my time again though, I still don't think I'd be brave enough to race how Stefan raced. But Stefan, of course, 3-time silver medalist at the first 3 World Championships from 1988 onwards. 88, 90 and 92. Obviously they were only held every second year at that stage. So he lived through the horrors of Nottingham in 1988, which we all prefer to erase from our memories. Horrific weather, flooded river. Then on to 1990 in Copenhagen, a race he really feels he should have won, and he says his wife still nags him about him throwing that race away all these years on. Then finally 1992 in Brisbane, where he raced 3.5 hours, the longest World Championships to date, and the way it's going it will be the longest one ever, and came down to a showdown between myself and him. And to be fair to Stefan, it was sheer luck that got me away from him towards the end. There was an incident with a motorboat, and I know at the time he didn't enjoy that, but was gracious enough to be very kind to me afterwards. And having spent a whole weekend with Stefan, you realise you don't know them too much after all, but having spent a weekend with him, you realise what a great guy he is, and a great attitude to the sport, great attitude to other athletes. So this is the second group we're watching. Italy, Great Britain now, France and Belgium. Lead group in shot, and we're coming up to the portage. First the turn though. Everything pretty relaxed here. These guys have already gone through the thought processes. As Daniels and Pendle fell off and dropped right back to that second group, in their minds, ka-ching, they've logged a medal already, and then the thought processes change as to what colour that medal might be. So Salty Boros leading the charge around this turn. They seem the most motivated of the crews to drop Pendle and Daniels, which might mean they feel like they're the strongest boat in the race, but more likely that they're the most insecure boat in the race, and they feel they need that cushion. The Spanish didn't feel that need, or as they suggested yesterday themselves, maybe age is taking its toll. So really relaxed. It looks like the two boats on the left of your picture are coming into the right hand side of the pontoon. Alonso Merchan going left. No real rush. Last minute change of plan by the second Spanish crew there. Not sure why you'd do that, but they obviously have an idea. But so often in these races, rather than Spanish cooperation, you've seen Spanish against Spanish towards the latter stages of the race. With immense power over that last stage, but at that portage, the last portage, it was clear that the Spanish were more concerned with each other than they were with the South African crew. So here we go, they're both getting in on the left side of the pontoon, leaving the right side empty for the Hungarians. Everyone in and away. There's really no future in rushing off from here, so I expect them just to paddle gently away. Front man in the Hungarian boat really doesn't need to be pulling like that when his back man's not with him. There is no rush. That's 10 strokes. They would have been extremely heavy strokes with your backman just fiddling around with his drink system. That's not a problem with the backman. The backman wants a drink. That's fair enough. It's a bit foolish on the part of the front guy who's persisting despite all the evidence that his backman isn't ready yet. So in come the second group. It's France and Italy to the left side of the pontoon. It's Great Britain and Belgium to the right. Heads look a little low in that Great Britain boat, to be fair. They balked the Belgians by stopping early. Belgians are not best pleased with that, but that's fair play to the Great Britain crew. They thought it through. They're running, but not with the same spring in the step they had earlier. And through come the French first in the white, Italians blue. Support crew looking left and right, making sure he's not going to get speared by the next boat through the portage. So those two, a little bit of a gap. Yellow nose of Pendle Daniels' boat there, and the Belgians, who have every right to be a little bit miffed after that treatment from Pendle. French away, Pendle Daniels away, Italians away, and Belgians away. There will be no change. Pick-up devices, and that can be all it takes to not get a signal in those. They're a little bit sensitive. It's a work in progress, and a lot of time and effort's gone into those. They've been quite handy this week, but for this race it looks like they might not be functioning too well. So here we go, back to the front group. A little bit lazy now from the Spanish. Murch and Alonso, they know what hard work costs over the second half of the race. They were out here yesterday when they were really, I'm sure they won't mind me saying, they were really taken apart by Romalo in the new Cinco design boat from Nello Kayaks, one of the main sponsors of this event. And they're happy just to tap along. That is a case of just covering ground. They just need to cover ground and get as close to the end as they can with as little effort as they can, so that they're ready for whatever may come their way in the closing stages. When those closing stages begins varies dramatically from race to race. It can be 2 or 3k out, it can be just 500 meters before the finish. I'm not sure what decides that, I'm not sure what dictates that, but everyone knows when it happens. The change of mood, there's change in the levels of aggression, and the people's willingness to drop back onto a wash is reduced dramatically. So they're round the top turn. Meanwhile, in front of me in the commentary position, family paddling, sun hats on, shirts off, paddling an open Canadian around what must be one of the most beautiful lakes in Europe, and for them life is looking great. So a bit of downtime now while the paddlers are at the far end of the course. I'll have another sip of water, and let's have a few more questions, guys. If you want the time filled, if you just want me to shut up, you can text that in as well. I don't mind. I'll either ignore you or take some notice of you. Back to the second group there. Italians taking their turn. Great Britain coming to terms with their disappointment still, I imagine. They're still looking at that front group thinking there's an open V-wash up there. We were there, but for a simple error we should still be there. France tucked in the back there. They're having a solid rest at the moment as the change comes in the front group. I think that is. Judging by the speed of that change, that'd be the Hungarians. They're the only ones who are motivated to pick the speed up. And it was really them that did the damage to Pendle and Daniels. Seems like my internet connection is down, so even if you are sending in questions, I can't see them. Portuguese, Danes and Hungarians, they seem to be moving well. Couple of young guys there, 21, 26. Early days for them. Faria, 25, his partner already 30. And the Hungarians, Mazaros, very young, 22, and Gear, 25. So a lot of under 23s in this race, realising that under 23 as an entity is only a brief diversion. Actually, once you leave junior, then the real target is senior and senior racing, where age really means nothing. It's very easy to get a bit low when you're one of the smaller, younger kids and you're getting beaten by kids twice your size. They're already shaving, losing their hair. But it all comes right in the end, I can assure you. You just need to keep plugging away, get your training in, have a bit of belief in yourself, and one day it will all come good. So Hungarians still motivated to keep that speed high at the front. Perhaps even they saw that the Spanish had weakness yesterday on the second half of the race. Maybe they've discussed it with their team managers. Maybe they've set out with a plan. They've done their share. They're dropping round, and it's Alonso and Merchan taking the lead. I'm surprised maybe they're not motivated yet at this stage in the race, that the Spanish haven't started to gang up on the Hungarians a little bit. If the Spanish on the far side took the lead now, the Hungarians would have to drop round the back and come up their side. And of course, as soon as they've done that, the yellow boat of Merchan and Alonso could go again, and again the Hungarians would have to come round, and they could repeat that process over and over and over and gradually suck the life out of that Hungarian boat. But there doesn't seem to be any motivation in that direction, which is either kindness on the part of the Spanish or self-preservation on the part of the Spanish. I suspect the latter, because they were out here yesterday. They know exactly how hot it is out there. Start messing about might not be top of their list of priorities. So really at this stage of the race, with groups this size, there's not much tactically to comment on. All the tactics are just in these guys' heads. They're trying to plan out how each lap will go, what position they need to be at the portage. There's no action that we can see as the spectators. All the action is internal. The thought processes are there. They run through scenarios in their head. They try and make judgments on who will be the stronger boat to sit with if it all kicks off. And every now and then there'll be a small test just to confirm what they think to be true. So here they come, a couple hundred meters to the portage. Wouldn't expect anything too exciting here. Should be just routine. So far the Spanish have been opting to go on the same side of the pontoon, the left side. Hungarians coming this side, maybe. Could well happen again. Or maybe the Spanish, as we saw the C2 do to the Hungarians, they'll just hold them off away from the pontoon by coming in on the same side of them as them. So here we go, as they approach, it's Spanish left and Hungarians right. The yellow boat will stop soon, blue boat rather will go past them, and well, uneventful as they would like it. Maybe as spectators we want something different, but uneventful portage, no one running there with any intent. That's just running to get to the other end. All the boats will go in tidily, there'll be no rush, nothing fancy, and away they'll go to continue their journey. A few holiday makers behind them, making the most of the sunshine here in Bohine, and away they go. Just had the information that was portage 7 from the technical director there, which means they've got 1 full lap and 1 half lap to go. Fairly grateful for that information because I had that down as portage 6. So the second group, that's the back of that front group as they move away from the portage. Second group coming in, it's Great Britain and Italy coming right at the landing stage. It's France and Belgium going left. And I don't get quite a clear view from the commentary box, but cameras should pick up everything. So Pendle and Daniels again stopped fairly early. It's the French out first. Pendle and Daniels struggling to get back to the handle on that boat, and all out, all up and away again, quite uneventful. French are running reasonably well, but not running in a way that would suggest they're planning on getting away. All down to the end of the portage now. We'll watch one of the following groups coming back in. So the portage. So this is the group with Hungarians, Danes, and the Portuguese. Behind them, on their own, we have the Polish, I think, and only 3 or 4 lengths behind them now, Adam and Jezek. It's been quite fun to follow their progress through this race. They are going to pick up the Poles. They are going to overtake them at some stage, especially as the Poles just put their paddles down for a couple of moments there, and again to throw their drinks bag in the lake. Previous group just at the top of the ramp now, exit ramp. Denmark support crew about to put their drinks over the head of their competitors. I'm not sure if he missed that or not. That all got lost in the blackness of the screen there. So they're all going to be through the portage comfortably, all cleanly, just the 3 of them. 1 large lap and 1 small lap to go, and coming into the portage the other end is Poland, and just 3 lengths behind them is Jezek and Adam. I suspect on this portage Jezek and Adam will catch them up and they'll have company, but I suspect not for long, because one of those crews is on a mission and the other one is falling back. So, Previous group paddling away from the portage. The front runners now well up the lake. I think the pace in the front group has slowed slightly, but they've still got a good long lead over that second group. Absolutely no danger of that second group closing them down. You can just about on that picture make out the three groups. So they're up the top of the lake, and we are left down here to talk amongst ourselves for a bit. It looks like I'm pretty much totally devoid of internet connection now. So your chances of getting any messages into me are somewhere between 0 and none. So I appreciate you could have been watching the Formula 1 today, or you could have been watching Wimbledon, but you've come to the right place. You are in Boheen, much better venue than either of those previous sporting events, and we'll try and keep the excitement levels reasonably high for you. Here we go, back up to the top of the course with the leading three. Now these guys, they've got about 3k to go to the last portage and only about 750 metres after that portage. Things are getting a little bit tenser now. Often before this sort of period of, they'll have a little bit of tension later on. Now maybe it's really relaxed, sort of fishing around their bodies, trying to find a little bit more energy from somewhere. And often at this dead patch, just before it all kicks off again, that's when you feel your worst. You start feeling the aches, you start feeling the pains. You need that little bit of extra adrenaline of getting nearer to the finish to make all those vanish, and you get your priorities back in order. So, Buzan and Fernandez, one of the smoothest K2s out there, followed by Alonso and Merchan. They have to be feeling a bit of pinch from yesterday's 2 hours in the sun. And then Salty and Boros. They're still there, I'm sure. Yep, there they are. So everyone's through the penultimate portage. No stragglers left. I think we've had quite a few retirements today. And to be fair, if things weren't going your way out there today, I think it's just too hot and too unpleasant to force your way around a course like this. Far better to come back for a swim in the lake and an ice cream. So Belgium, Great Britain, Italy and France in that chase group. They've given up the chase, but they are still going to be fighting for pride at the end. I think that last portage in that group will be quite dramatic. There's a couple of people there who aren't portaging too smoothly already, and with a bit of added stress, that's the sort of group you could see an accident from. So they're going up round the top turn. As we join The front group again. Another drinks bag jettisoned into the lake. This time from Merchan. And it's a long wait now until they come back down. And from the time they get opposite the commentary box, that's when the tension is going to begin. So, just the turn before the portage and the final turn to go, and a little bit of a flurry of activity. Not sure exactly what that was about. I don't see any gain from that. I don't see any change from that. No, maybe we missed something on the screen there, but yeah, that confused me a little bit there. But it's Buzan and Fernandez. Now it's not unusual. There they go. I was just going to say it's not unusual for a crew in that position to decide from that sort of distance out that as of now, no one overtakes us. We used to have that kind of agreement in RK2 when we used to race. At some stage I'd turn around, give my partner a nod and say, that's it. As of now, we are the leaders. And from that point on, you defend your lead with everything you have. So Buzan, Fernandez, maybe have made that decision. Merchan, Alonso, they know them well. They know what their capabilities are. And Salty and Boros. They're all there still. Now, if you're one of those boats on that wash and you're not fast enough to get by on your own, there's opportunities will present themselves for an attack. Often, after one crew attacks, everything drops. The speed drops, the arms drop. And it's in that one moment there when everyone relaxes. If you go, you have a tiny, tiny window of opportunity to capitalise on that relaxation and get to the front. At this stage, they'll be acutely aware of the other two boats in their group. So it would seem the medals were sorted a long time ago. And the fight for the colour has already begun. So, of course, the portage offers another opportunity to overtake if you're not a stronger paddler. Buzan Fernandez looking ominously strong there. They didn't race yesterday. Their fellow countrymen did, and they suffered a little bit yesterday too. Salty also raced earlier in the weekend. That was a couple of days ago now. He should be recovered from that. So, about a minute to go to the turn in front of the commentary box. Another minute from that to the portage, and another 2.5, 3 minutes from the portage to the finish. It's Buzan Fernandez. Flanking there, Merchan, Alonso, and Salty and Boros from Hungary. Way back now is that second group. They'll be starting to fight out their own personal battles. Exactly the same routine as I've described for the front group. But round those boys, second boy, third, 2 to go, and then straight into the portage. I really think you can expect a flurry of activity into the portage this time. this won't be an entirely calm affair. Here we go. Beautiful coordination from Buzan. Fernandez there. Absolutely responded to that. They'll try and drop the speed as soon as they can. Basically, and then another attack. They cover that. 3 strokes it took them to cover that second attack. Now they'll keep the speed reasonably high, but they are dictating the speed at this stage. Been pushed on just a little, but no one's coming past them. They fired up the music in the spectator area. Tensions